Welcome to the Popish Plot. I'm Nate.
I'm Jessica.
And I'm Mike.
Today, we are here to talk about Saint Kateri Tekakwitha.
Saint Kateri Tekakwitha.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Kateri. Most people know it as Kateri, but it's believed that it was originally taken as a local / indigenous version of the word Catherine, and therefore it would be more properly pronounced Kateri.
Oh, it was totally taken from St. Catherine.
Yes.
But, you know, the pronunciation is...
But the pronunciation is based on...
Or in her native Italian, Caterina.
Oh, yes. Yes, St. Catherine. I'm like,
Yeah.
she's a Mohawk. She doesn't speak Italian.
The Mohawks native Italian.
Anyway.
So she's from that part of New York.
Anyway.
It wasn't Italian yet.
Today is Native American Heritage Day, and technically this month is Native American Heritage Month.
Yep.
However, from our other months, we did a number of Native Americans, plus Google just decided to tell me about this in October, so I'm like...
Information that was useful to me yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday information. Mm-hmm. So I thought at the very least we could do this saint, because this is one that is, you know, one of the best well-known in our area Native American saints.
Especially because she's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So she was born around 1656. We don't know exactly, of course.
Near the area of Austernanon, New York.
And she died April 17th, 1680, at about age 25.
At what was named Kanawake, Quebec, Canada?
Well, at the time it was New France. But
New France, of course.
Canada. Mm-hmm. She was beatified June 22nd in 1980 and canonized October 21st in 2012. And those were both in Vatican
I remember
City.
that one. I mean, I wasn't there, but like I remember. Like,
And
it was big news.
Yeah.
Her feast day is July 14th, although according to some sources...
An excellent day.
Yes, according to some sources in Canada, she's also celebrated on April 17th, as that's the day she died.
Sure.
And I did not find why her feast day is nowhere near the day she died.
I only
It is one of those things where it is Easterish, so
Yeah.
that could be why she was moved.
Yep.
I only say it's an excellent day because it is in the middle of one of the most excellent months.
Sure.
Okay.
All the best people are born in July.
Exactly.
She is the patron of ecologists in the ecology, environment, environmentalists, the lost appearance, people of exile, and Native Americans.
Okay, that all seems to fit.
Mm-hmm.
And her symbols are traditionally a lily, as she was the lily of the Mohawks, a turtle, which we'll get into in the story, and the rosary.
Nice.
To be honest, I kind of want to have that icon.
Of a turtle?
No, of Saint Kateri, with
Riding a turtle,
with holding a lily, and perhaps a little turtle down by her feet, and a rosary in the other hand, and
perhaps a rosary made of like turtle shell.
As long as it was, ethically harvested.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. That goes without saying.
Anyway, her father was a Mohawk chief. Her mother was, I'm going to mispronounce it. So
Algonquin.
who had been baptized and educated by the French missionaries. Apparently she was kidnapped by the Mohawks and taken in, but she became part of their tribe, and it seemed to be that in this society, women choose their mate, so like
Nice.
she got to pick and stuff for a certain amount.
Who wouldn't want to pick a chief?
Yeah. And the Mohawks at the time were very big on having other tribes join them because, as comes important later in the story, they kept having smallpox outbreaks and stuff, so their numbers were diminishing. So they wanted to keep the numbers up to protect them from the other tribes and stuff that were more warring with them. She was the oldest child. She had a younger brother. When she was around 4, there was a smallpox epidemic, and that killed her parents and her brother. She got facial scars and vision problems from then on out in the rest of her life from that. She was adopted by an aunt who was her father's sister, and her husband, who was the chief of the Turtle clan. So
hence the
turtles.
Gotcha.
And at the time when she was young, the Mohawks were trading with the Dutch. The French were trading with the Hurons, which was a group that they were. It didn't say war, but it seemed to imply that they were like not friendly.
They were less than fraternal with.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So each had their own side they helped with, but the French ended up attacking 3 of their villages in 1666, which caused her to have to flee her home in like late October, which in
That's
New
a rough
York,
time. That's a rough time.
cold.
In upstate New York, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. They then were forced to sign a peace treaty because, the French clearly could outman them. And part of the terms of the peace treaty was that Jesuit missionaries were allowed into the village. Although the French traders were, being complete mercenaries and stuff on this, the Jesuits that came in seemed to at least care about the people. Like, there's stuff written that they kind of treated them like they were children compared to adults, but they learned the languages. They worked on explaining Christianity in terms that were understandable to them. They even incorporated things like one of the things was in the Our Father and saying who arts in heaven, they say their word for essentially the land of the sky.
Yep.
Which was already part of their, beliefs.
Yes.
Oh, I kind of want to hear that one.
Yeah. Well, but remember, this is within just a decade and a half of the death of the famous North American martyrs, Jesuit missionaries to the Hurons. So,
Right. But I'm just saying.
They were trying everything they could to bring these people to truth and salvation.
Yes,
I'm just saying. I'd kind of like to hear that our
the French
father.
overall were being jerks about this.
Of course.
You have to trade with me or I'll burn down your village is bad. But the Jesuits were trying in the amount that they understood and could.
That is the sad history of relations between Westerners and the indigenous peoples.
It is.
At around 13, she met 3 Jesuit missionaries that came to her village. Her uncle was against her talking to them because one of her daughters had already left the village.
One of his daughters had already left the village.
Yep. I'm totally reading this right. One of his daughters had already left the village to go in the missionary village that happened to be across the St. Lawrence River from them. And in 19...
Here, let me help you. In 1669, a group of Mohican warriors attacked the village. I'm sorry. Attacked.
It's contagious.
Well, the problem is that spell check only works for words that aren't words.
Carry on.
So, in 1669, a group of Mohican warriors attacked the village, and the village was under siege for 3 days.
Yikes.
During this time, Kateri and the other girls helped Father Jean Perron tend the wounds and bury the dead and carry food and water to the defenders of the town.
Starting at around age 13, her family pressured her into marriage, which was the age that girls started getting married in her tribe.
Yep.
So, yes. And, like, by the age of 17, they were, like, really pushing her. Like, they were essentially attempting to force the meet cute on her. She's like, they're like, this guy from the, village go sit next to her.
Yep.
Hey, why don't you make this corn dish, which is a sign of I'm willing to court you.
Well, again, by this point, she was on the verge of becoming an old maid. So, like, we really got to get this girl married off.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. While 18 would seem to be rather young for us, for them, it was, you should have already had at least a couple of children.
But, of course, she had the facial scars from the smallpox. That didn't help anything.
Yeah.
Yes, she was known...
Because people are shallow.
She was known for being kind of shy and quiet and covered herself and stuff.
But in 1674, around when she was 18, she met with a priest who was visiting their village.
Yes. The other women were harvesting corn. However, she had recently injured her foot, so she couldn't work. So she was hanging out in the village. So she got to talk to him, and she shared her story with him, and that she wanted to become Christian.
Aww.
And then she started studying the catechism with him. And on Easter in 1676, she was baptized, and she was named after Catherine of Siena, which again, her name...
Kateri.
It was, the closest that they had for, the language that she was speaking.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Works.
She remained in her village about 6 months after that, but a lot of people opposed her conversion, and they were even accusing her of being a sorcerer. I don't know why, but
When you're different, people make weird accusations about you.
If you're praying to a foreign god, that sets people on edge.
We can put up with the black robes because we have to, or the French will burn down our village. But it doesn't mean we have to join them.
Yes. So a Father Lambertview suggested she move to the Jesuit mission, which again was the place where her, essentially adopted sister lived.
Yeah.
Which
we know that her father was against this.
Yes. Which was somewhat...
Well, her uncle. But yeah. Her
uncle
father figure.
Her uncle who was raising her, yes.
Yes. So then she was able to move into a longhouse with that sister, along with her husband, as well as a close friend of her mother. And I could not find out if it was her biological mother or her aunt who took her in and raised her. But her mother's friend, whichever mother it was named
Anastasia Tagon Hatsiongo. I slaughtered that. My apologies, but it's the best I can do with phonics.
Yep. And she was the clan matron of the Longhouse, and she also helped teach her various Christian practices, which was kind of common in that place and time.
Yeah.
The priest did the official instructions, and then
the sisters all taught each other
and taught. So
well, again, anybody who comes into the church, it's one thing to know the official church teaching. It's another thing to know. All right, so what do we do as Catholics?
Yes.
When do I have to kneel? When do I have to stand up? When do I have to sit?
Yes, and the mission village was done largely in traditional ways that Native Americans of the areas did things. Like they were in long houses, and apparently like when all the people moved, they also moved, and it had lots of different tribes there, and all the tribes tended to get along well together and interact.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like a two-part society because all the Native Americans interacted with each other, and then all the French were in their own area.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then sometimes these circles sort of collided, but not like...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like mingled.
Yes. She also became close friends with...
Marie-Therese Tegayan Gent.
These are
names that are not familiar to us, so our apologies.
Yes.
It's much like Saint Juan Diego. We don't even try to do the native part of his name.
That's correct.
Yes. And they were really good friends. Apparently at one time they learned about the concept of a religious sister, and they totally wanted to form an order.
Like, oh, that sounds awesome. Let's do that.
Yeah, but the priest thought that they were too...
In fairness, been there.
Exactly.
Yeah, but the priest thought they were too young in the faith for that, because they wanted to go out and form an actual religious order.
Yeah, well, this is a common thing.
Yeah.
The priest is right. You're young and you're excited. You're like, but you're still a baby Christian. You know nothing.
Well, and all good orders are formed based around somebody much more senior who's willing to anchor that order.
I mean, it's great that like the girls who gathered around Mother Teresa, but they still needed Mother Teresa.
Yeah,
make sure they didn't follow their youthful enthusiasm into something that'd be wrong.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, so they formed their own informal group because as you probably could tell, she never got married. Even before she became Christian, she's like, I don't want to. And then at the point when she learned about Christianity, she was basically, Jesus is my husband.
Yep. Well, again, St. Catherine of Siena, she was a Third Order Dominican, not informal religious life.
Yep. During Holy Week of 1680, her friends could see her health was failing. I wasn't able to tell exactly what, but given the fact that she had smallpox as a toddler, it probably affected her health the rest of her life.
Yep.
And she ended up dying on Holy Wednesday. Her final words, according to her friend Marie Teresa, were, Jesus, Mary, I love you.
Amen.
Amen. I hope my last words could be that good.
At her death, it was said that her smallpox scars disappeared.
I love this.
Yes. And she also appeared to 3 people after her death. 1, her mentor Anastasia. 2, her friend Maria Teresa. And 3, a priest that was there at the time.
Nice.
For her mentor and her friend, it seemed to be largely like saying goodbye. Like for her friend, it was like she heard a voice she knew her friend saying, adieu, adieu, because they were hanging out with the French.
Yep.
I'm off to heaven.
Nice.
Hey.
The priest then built a chapel near her grave, and by 4 years later, it was a pilgrimage site. Mm-hmm. So I imagine people at the area already were going there.
She was known as a saint right after her death.
Mm-hmm.
Like her first 2 biographies were written by French missionary priests, and they're both written, like very what we would consider biased and slanted at the time, because like one went on about her chastity because the myth at that time were that the natives were totally sexual all the time, so they're like, look, she's good at that, and the other one went on other issues largely based on their preconceived notions on what the Native Americans were, but still, even with their we'd look at that and go, that's horribly, racist. They still said she's a great saint, even though we think all these horrible things about her.
They were doing the best they could in the culture they were in the context they were in. Doesn't mean they were right, but they were of goodwill.
She was considered an unofficial patroness of Montreal and America's indigenous peoples well before her canonization.
Yeah, and about 50 years after her death, there was a group of Native Americans who were either nuns or religious sisters. I don't know if they were actually cloistered and therefore nuns.
Yeah.
But they were down in Mexico, and they started, like, when they formed, they're like, we're praying for her canonization.
Yep.
But the official process started around 1885 at the Third Plenary Council of Baltimore for the U.S., and then Canadian Catholics followed, like, the same year.
So, a little over 200 years after her death.
Yep.
906 Native Americans signed 27 letters for her canonization.
Nice.
She is the first Native American woman from North America to be canonized.
Yep.
And she's featured in 4 national shrines in the U.S., which is our hometown collection to it.
The National Shrine of Blessed Kateri Tekakwitha in New York.
Which clearly was made before she was canonized.
The National Shrine of North American Martyrs in New York. The Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C.
Nice.
And the Cross in the Woods.
And the Cross in the Woods in Indian River, Michigan. Hometown pride. Woo!
And actually, apparently the whole idea of the Cross in the Woods was based off of what she did.
Nice.
She would make small wooden crosses and put them throughout the woods. So this, if you've ever been to it, you would know, because I don't know how big this cross is, but it is stories tall.
Huge.
It is a huge cross. And
It's actually the opposite of putting a bunch of little crosses in the woods.
it's a giant cross.
Perhaps when things are just a little more relaxed, we can do a Popish plot pilgrimage to the
Absolutely.
Cross in the Woods.
Amen.
I mean, I wouldn't mind going there because the kids could be like, this is super boring, and the gift store is lame. But at the Cross in the Woods, they have a statue on the grounds, which I honestly don't remember from the last time I was there, but it's been years since the last time I was there. But it's her cradling a cross in her arms, surrounded by turtles.
Nice. Turtles all the way down.
I think it's a single layer of turtles, because it's Christian and not, myths.
Yeah.
And that's the end of that one. So, we hope you enjoyed the discussion of St. Kateri Tekakwitha.
St. Kateri Tekakwitha,
Pray for us. We hope you learned something, and please, as we point out, we have done quite a bit on Native Americans, but there is always more Native American saints that we can go and point out. So please go down below into the comments and maybe share with us someone that you know.
Or I really like if you do like venerable, because that's on the level where if you're not local, you might not know them.
Oh yeah, venerables and blesseds are always good.
Our brothers and sisters on the road to sainthood.
That's right.
So comment below with Your favorite saint who's not a saint yet. Give this episode a like, subscribe to our channel, ring the church bell so you'll be notified the next time we talk about one of our brothers and sisters.
And until next time, remember to live your faith.
Love your faith.
Share that love.